All right, hello guys. It's the Grease Goblins channel, and we're doing another live stream. That was a weird intro, very weird intro, but we're not gonna bother with it. We're back. We're doing I guess, a Winds of Winter live stream. This was a very last minute planned thing. It was one of those things where I was like, do I want to go to class today, or at least my first class? And I was just like, not really. And so I'm here. I wanted to do a stream for you guys because again, I didn't get to it Friday. This has been a very busy time in my life right now, but I want to give you guys a stream, do a little stream or whatever. And I will say, okay, I will say, that I don't understand, like, the Song of Ice and Fire community, I love and hate, because it's like, I put out a video last week that was just like, Patreon wanted me to talk kind of about Winds of Winter and the release and Dream of Spring. And me knowing the upload is going to do well, it's just like, why is it the videos that I don't want to do that well do really well? It's like, like, I would so much rather like a video like any of my coverage on the Feast for Crows chapters or reread or a character analysis to do really well. But no. So, that's just not how it works. And, I've come to accept that. But hi guys, how are you all? I'd love to hear how you guys are doing. We're streaming really early. I think this is the earliest I've ever streamed on this channel. It's about noon-ish where I am. So, yeah, just kind of a weird time to stream. But let's talk about Winds of Winter. So, if you guys have any questions, by the way, or topics you want me to talk about, things you want me to focus on, do put that in the comments. But for now, I will say, I've been, rereading Dance of Dragons. I have a video retrospective going up for you guys on Thursday. I think it's going to be Thursday. It's going to be going up. And so one thing that I've really taken away from like rereading it again is just how interesting Bran is at the very beginning of that book. You get like 2 chapters of Bran within the first 13, and both of them are like a really big change of pace from his normal stuff. And it makes you think about Winds of Winter with Bran, where we're going to get a lot of, he's learning how to be the Three-Eyed Crow. He's learning how to take these new powers that he's getting and using them to a certain degree. And so I really enjoy that part of it, where he's going to be able to give us more information about the world. He probably will be able to figure out who Jon's parents are, whether they're whoever you believe they are. All that's going to be pretty interesting. Also, looking at something I've kind of come up with an idea is when we think about Bloodraven, because Bloodraven, for the most part, seems like he's going to be Bran's teacher for the most part. Think about what Bloodraven, his main objective is, right? Bloodraven is someone that the ends justify the means type character. And so when you think about how that's going to affect a character like Bran, where Bran is a character that doesn't seem like that at all, right? Like, he is someone that seems like he's still a kid. He's still trying to figure out who he is as a person. And you have this character like Bloodraven who's going to be super influential for him. And we have this character that could possibly be a Blackfire in Young Griff. How much of Bloodraven, his actual personality and things are still there, that he still has, that bias against the Blackfires? Will that be brought into Bran? Like, will Bran be manipulated by Bloodraven to go against Young Griff? Could be something that is to Young Griff's undoing. Will, Young Griff start getting these visions or dreams that start to make him go a little crazy? That's all stuff that I think could be very interesting. Like, how does Bloodraven still being in the story impact a possible Blackfire candidate still in the story? But hi, Agor. I agree. Hi, April. How are you? Bloodraven is bad. I agree. No way, man. Bloodraven's day of evil manipulations is over. Could be. Bran is going to kill his ass? Interesting. Okay. All right. So you think Bran's going to kill him, not like the others or anything? It's just going to be Bran taking over? It's going to be like a Sansa Littlefinger type thing where it's like she figures it all out and she's like, no. It could be one of those things where it's like Bran realizes he eats Jojen and then he kills Bloodraven. That could be interesting. Oh, you think he's gonna you think he's gonna save Jojen's life? No, Jojen's already dead. Is Bloodraven going to end up being like Obi-Wan or Palpatine? Palpatine, 100%. 100%. But hi, Maz. How are you? How are you guys? It's a little earlier in the day than normal. So how are you guys? How's your guys' day going? What are you guys up to? Jojen, the children are singing when the chapter ends. They are stringing Jojen into that root system Bran was not supposed to see. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things when you look at Jojen as a character that he just seems very suspicious, right? He talks about his own death quite a lot with like Mira. It seems like Mira knows something about Jojen that's going to happen that Bran does not know. The way the pace is described is very suspicious. We've also been given hints that it seems like Bran and his companions have already eaten humans with cold hands in the first chapter. Interesting. Studying for midterm, but I'd rather be thinking about the Winds of Winter, so here I am. Fair enough, Andrew. I had midterms not last week, the week before. I had spring break last week. I should be, heading to class here in a little bit, but I was like, not feeling it. I'm going to go to my later class, but my first class, I'm just like, I don't know. My problem with class is I really struggle with motivation to go into class when I feel it is as though it is like not needed. Like if I'm not getting anything out of the class, or if the class has like 3 or 4 grades the entire semester and I know that I can do good without even going to class, I very much struggle. Like I very much struggle. For instance, I have a class this semester that it's kind of interesting, but it feels very basic. Like I'd love to go to like a more advanced version of the class, but I have like a media management class, and really what the class is about, it's like, how do you manage like a media? So for instance, the first half of the class was basically you're creating something. How do you pitch something to maybe get investors, or how do you create a brand or whatever? And so a lot of it felt very surface level. So it was like stuff where it's like, oh yeah, this channel, like I could use this channel as like part of my project. And I actually did that. And I got like 100%, but there's no grades in the class. So I have two grades in the class, which was like an exam and a project. And I have like an A+ in the class. So I could literally do almost nothing the rest of the class and still get a B. So I'm just like, that's where I struggle to go to a class. So it's like, I'm not really getting anything out of it because I already know a lot of the things they're trying to teach. And then I already have a really good grade. So I don't know. Leaving for the gym. Well, good luck, Maz. Good luck with the gym. I wish I could go to the gym, but I'm an old man. I have back problems and all. I did my gym is basically, I did some stretching before stream. I did my whole stretch routine for my shoulders, my neck, and my back, but that's about it. Skipping classic all the no. Okay, no. It is a very bad habit that I have. Do not skip class unless you think you can get through it. Or if, like, depending on your college, I know certain colleges, if you skip too much, you get removed. So, don't take after me. That's what I'm trying to say. Bran, who has made Baelor so crazy after his coma. Bran was trying to Bloodraven from being born. Check it. Baelor swapping ravens for crows, locking up all his sisters. Okay, I like that idea. I used to skip classes back in the day. Once or twice is fine, but try not to make a habit of it. Yes, yeah, that's fair. I mean, Maz, I used to be much worse about it when I was like younger. When I first got into college, I would skip class like a decent amount, and it definitely held me back. Like I had to retake classes and stuff, and it was a big reason why it took me a little bit longer to get my minor. Or it's not exactly my minor, but to get my undergraduate stuff. So like that's basically your first 2 years of college. It took me longer, and so it did held me back. And so like I still kind of skip classes now, but I do it to a degree that I know that I can get through the class with at least a B and have an understanding of what is going on. So that was him trying to prevent Bloodraven from being born. Interesting. See, I'm the opposite. I get paranoid, do all the extra credit until I get super is it lazy by the end? The problem with Streamlabs is I can't see the end of the sentences. Hold on, let me go to the other thing. Yes, okay, super lazy by the end. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's another thing. I think it's fair though. It's like if you are in a position where it's like you have a really good grade by the end of it, you're just gonna get lazy if you don't really feel like you need to do that much. But yeah, I don't know. But let's get back on topic. Let's talk about some of the North. Also, again, if you guys have anything you want me to talk about for Winds of Winter, let me know down in the comments. But you think about all that with Bran, and I think the interesting part about Bran, it's something I talked about with the video I did about Winds of Winter last week. It's like, what is the timing? Like, how is Bran going to make it south of the wall and make it back to, you know, our Starks, our good guys or whatever, or our forces of the living? When is that going to happen? Because you got to think that's going to happen relatively quickly in the story, right? Like, you have to think about it. If Bran has to probably leave the cave at least by like the midpoint of Winds of Winter, because we have to have at some point or another in Winds of Winter, the others need to be at least like sieging the walls or something like that, or they've gotten through the walls. They have to be starting their invasion, I believe, by the end of Winds of Winter. That has to happen. And so if that is to happen, Bran cannot be north of the wall. He can't be still north and all that. So again, I think that's very important. And yes, that is a great point that Cole Hintz does tell Bran where the back door to the cave system is. But that question is like, how does Bran get back so quickly? Like, think about it. He's a cripple. He is someone that is not going to have quick transportation all the way back. It is a very interesting question to bring about. It makes you feel like, okay, that journey that it took for them to get to the cave was really like not as bad as what it's going to be on the way back, right? On the way back, it seems like it's going to be even worse because you're going to have the others that are going to be constantly stalking you and following you all the way back. So, I mean, again, it is going to be interesting to see the way that happens. That's a fair point, April. Again, it's how do the timings work out, I think. You know, I think that's the part of it that's going to be interesting to see how George does it. Like, when does Bran get south comparatively to the rest of the story, right? Is it, you know, right after, say, the Boltons fall and, you know, maybe Jon Snow and some of the Lords of the North are trying to rally who is going to be in charge? It's going to be interesting. I do find that it's going to be very interesting to figure out when all that happens. So let's move over to the northern plot. Now, the northern plot, again, is going to be interesting because you have a lot of different factions, and how do we get everyone together, right? Because we still have a Rickon Davos plot line, we still have a Wall plot line. So what's going to happen with Mel, Jon, all of these different factions? Shireen, how is she going to be burned, and why is she going to be burned? Is it going to be because Mel believes that she can maybe bring back Jon? Is it going to be because she believes that she could help Stannis' cause in one way or another because she hears the news that he's possibly dead, or that he is dead given the pink letter? Is Mel going to see visions of why Mel, or not why Mel, of why she has to burn Shireen? There's some interesting points about that. Fastest way back for Bran is the underground. Fair enough. That's a really cool idea, by the way, April. It's like, we see a lot of dreams that Jon has, especially in the first book, about the Winterfell crypts and trying to find people, especially his father. And could that be a meaning of, by the end of the story, when all the Starks are trying to reunite, that's why, right? It's because he's trying to find all of his family, and he's going to end up finding them all at Winterfell and at the crypts. That could be an interesting idea. But I agree. I think all of them will initially be heading towards Winterfell. Now, my thing is, I think the issue with this is that's a long distance to travel. So if we're looking at other plot lines going on, for instance, Sansa. Sansa is not in the position to immediately start marching west and then north. So how does that work out, right? And then also, what is the route that if the Vale starts to mobilize, what are they going to... how are they going to get to the north, right? Is it going to be they take some ships there, they go through Goldtown? Are they going to go, up north towards Moat Cailin? How is that all going to work out? And so I've always thought that the way the story can make more sense without having to speed it along is that George has all of our characters actually meet more in kind of the Riverlands or around the Twins or Moat Cailin, that area. I think all of that could make sense, right, as to where Sansa gets there. I don't know if Sansa gets to Winterfell. I think that is really difficult to do. Barbary right now is clearing that collapse out inside the crypt. That's true. Also, why would I make fun of you, April? I mean, again, I think you have some really interesting ideas, and those are all possible. Love the 25 Days of Winds of Winter series. Thank you. I do enjoy doing that series, even though that series is very challenging to daily upload for that long. So yeah, I did enjoy doing that. I'm glad you liked it. I have no idea what I'm going to do next year because I want to always do like some sort of Christmas event thing for December. But it's tough to do because there's only so many things you can do based on Winds of Winter that people are going to be enjoying to watch. But yeah. Bran notices the skeletons of large bats. I always thought it'd be funny if they do fly. That would be cool. What if this would be really funny? Is if Bran just wargs into one of Dany's dragons, they pick up Bran and crew, drop them off in Winterfell, and then just show back up with Dany, and Dany's just like, wonder where'd my dragon go? Why is my dragon all snowy? That'd be funny. Did you see George R. R. Martin's cryptic Not-a-Blog post the other day? It seems to me he's hinting that he's done. Winds of Winter just has Dream left, but maybe I'm just being... So, I did not read that way. I know certain people read it that way. I did not read it that way. To me, I read that as George R. R. Martin is really struggling with, I think, a lot of mental stuff at this point. I think he's feeling quite lonely because I think a lot of the authors that he would have either looked up to, he would have been brought up with, are, passing away, whether that's because of COVID, whether that's because of just old age, things of that nature. It struck me as he feels very alone at this moment. That's not the way I took it. Let's pull that up. I think that's a good thing to pull up for the stream. That's a really good thing. I want to talk about that. Because it's not something I'm going to make a video on, but I think it's interesting to talk about. So, let me change my screen, and we'll look at this. Hold on, guys. I just gotta change this. So, let's take a look. George R. R. Martin posted this on March 11th, so 2 days ago at 6:07. Dreams have only one owner at a time. That's why dreamers are lonely. William Faulkner. Again, I did not read this as like he's going on to Dream of Spring. I think a lot of people have read that way. I don't read this like this. I think George is in a state where if you look at his last Not-a-Blog posts and stuff like that, and the way he's been on Twitter, a lot of it makes me feel like George is in a very dark state of how he looks at the world at this point. You see how he has contemplative here. I think if George R. R. Martin was done with Winds of Winter, we wouldn't be getting stuff like this. This is not what he would be putting out. He would be putting out more stuff in I'm really close to finishing Winds of Winter, or we're getting some tough finishing touches done editing wise, or I finished this plot line or that plot line. No, he leaves a very cryptic post that makes it seem as though he's a dreamer, that again, he's dreaming about things he wants to do in his world, but he's kind of struggling to do that, and it makes him feel very isolated and alone because, again, a lot of the writers of his time are probably gone. So that's the way I looked at it. Let me go back to our normal scene, if I can actually find it. This one. Okay. But, again, I don't know. Also, April, thank you for liking the Christmas stuff. Hi, Ghost. How are you? I have worked in publishing. I really do not think he can release Winds until spring is almost done. I meant he can't release it. Sorry, not can. Fair enough. The way these books are written, they're at this point. I almost have to be done before they can release. Fair enough, April. Also, hi Zeno, how are you? But yeah, I agree. I think he's. I think to me, he is just someone that is really struggling. At the moment. It is his world. All inspirations have been remade into something new and completely his own here. Oh no, you're good by the way, April. But yeah, he just, I mean, and I don't blame him, right? Like, he is someone that writes quite a lot about death in his series and what comes after death. I think that's something he could be contemplating a lot. Like, you know, you're later in life and you're thinking about all these things that you have not gotten to do in life, right? You haven't finished your book series. You wanted to finish Fire and Blood Part 2. You want to do more of the Dunk and Egg novellas. You want to do all these projects. But at the same time, whenever you do all of these things, someone's always not happy. Somebody's always upset. And that's just part of life. You can't impress everyone, right? That's why I had a comment on a video, I think 2 or 3 days ago, and they weren't being, you know, like disrespectful or anything. They were just saying, you know, I don't think your season 5 would have worked more or less. And again, that's because you're not going to please everybody, right? You can do what you think is right, but are good. People not always will agree, and that's something you have to just understand. But I think that's the way George looks at it, because George is almost in a lose-lose situation because of how long it's taken for this book to come out. The expectations for it are insane, right? It's just insane. It's like, put it this way. So everybody loved Dune 1. And so if we had waited like 12 years for Dune 2, the expectations for when Dune 2, when it would have came out, would have been insane. And let's like say if they had been saying, oh, there was a bunch of delays, right? Like they were saying, oh, it was going to be released in this year, but then it got delayed and pushed back another year. And it just kept doing that over and over again. That's kind of where we're at right now, where it's like, George has teased Winds of Winter being out at this day, or saying, oh, if it's not done here, you guys can do whatever. He said things like that so many times at this point that people are just kind of had enough of it. And so you have a lose-lose situation. If you release it, there's going to be a good portion of fans that just, it can't live up to their expectations, the preconceptions they've had in their head, right? Because of YouTubers, because of people like me, like Preston Jacobs, people like All Shift X, all these people that have made predictions, have thought up how they would like the series to go. When you've heard so much of this over and over again, if George comes in and has a book and it defies expectations, it changes things, and maybe that's good, but for the reader, it's just like, that's not what they wanted type thing. You can't please everyone. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, because if he doesn't release it, he gets fans every single day going, where's Winds of Winter? George R. R. Martin tries to post anything about his normal life. It's going to be, every single top comment is going to be, but did we ask though? Where's Winds of Winter? Or, but where's Winds of Winter? It's a tough situation. It's a very tough situation, you know? And yeah, I don't know. Who do you think was better father to their daughter, Otto or Tywin? If we're talking book version, I would say Otto. If we're talking show version, I would maybe go Tywin, but I'm not sure on that one. That's a tough one. They're very similar. But yeah, I agree with all what you guys are saying about George, by the way. What do you make of the cave scene in the Arianne preview chapter? Seems like there are some parallels to Bloodraven's cave. Yeah, I kind of got the same type of vibes, John. I think it kind of creates like an ominous feeling for the rest of the book to come with that plot line. And you got to think about where, like, for instance, Arianne is as a character kind of going. Arianne's a character that I think a lot of people think are doomed to die. And so it's an interesting thing to talk about, I guess. Yeah, I feel bad for George, but then again, nobody told him to give HBO the rights to make $1 million show like Game of Thrones. Yeah, and I think the worst part about it is like you can tell at the start of the show there was a lot of care taken for it, right? And something I talked about on a episode of Avatar that's going to be out, I think probably Friday or Saturday, is that when you look at the media nowadays or shows that are coming out, a lot of them are just releasing to the public at the base form. And they're not like taking a chance to go, hey, this isn't good. We could do this better. They want to get it out to make money. And when you think about Game of Thrones, the way it started, it had a failed pilot. HBO, the producers, whatever, they said this wasn't good enough. We're going to do some recasting and we're going to try this again. And so it started out with George R. R. Martin having a lot of power, being very invested. And it kind of went away from that. Right? George R. R. Martin specifically had things that he wanted to be done with the show. He wanted it to be longer, to do more things with it. And you also got to think about when Game of Thrones was released. When Game of Thrones was released, the community was pretty positive, right? We had just gotten Dance with Dragons. It had released, I think, like 2 or 3 months before Game of Thrones premiered. Everything was looking up, right? Like at that point, you were sitting here going, okay, we've only got 2 books left that George is saying, you know, we should have at least one of these done in the next couple of years. So if it is a 10-season show, that's 10 years after Dance with Dragons. On a hopeful note, again, looking at the way we had gone about, we had gotten Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons in 11 years. The first 3 books we had gotten in 6 years, I believe. I might be wrong on that. It was actually, no, wait. It was 4, I don't remember. It was a very short amount of time between the first 3 books. You're looking at it and you're going, yeah, okay, with that logic, it should be that we should be able to finish the series if this is a 10 season show. So you're sitting there and you're going, yeah, we're on a very positive note. But I don't know. It's just at this point now, it's not the same. I wonder if he gets sad because some of us fans go so into it. I wonder if he feels no. I don't. Okay, so I don't think that's what. I don't think that's what he would be offended by. I know he is someone that doesn't like the idea of people making their own fan fictions and things like that. But I think he enjoys people looking at some of the questions that he poses and pondering. Like, I think a major one would be what happened with the Dornish War, the first Dornish War. Like, why did that end? I think he would be very happy to see people speculating on those things. Like, he is someone that I think would really like a History of Westeros' channel, because History of Westeros, their channel is mainly talking about elements of the story. He is someone that, or they are someone that cover his story in a lot of detail, without like making their own story. Like they try to fill in those gaps of George's world. And the second Winds of Winter is out. It's going to be Where's Dream of Spring? When exactly? That's what exactly I'm talking about, Matt. Like George, I think, is in a situation where he feels like there is no winning scenario, right? Because in a lot of ways, in a perfect scenario, he would love to probably have them both done at the same time. He just does not have that luxury right now. And that's where a lot of theories come from, that people believe that he's actually done with Winds of Winter and he's working on Dream of Spring. And once that gets done, you know, he's going to be, he's going to release them, but who knows? Also, hi, Ashley. How are you? And also, yeah, I ended up skipping my early class today and was like, I'll just give you guys a stream because I didn't stream last week. So, yeah. But how are you doing, Ashley? Should have had young Griffith. Yeah, and that's the whole point of this, right? Is that would Winds of Winter have been out earlier if the show was actually 10 seasons? If you think about that, you have maybe a year in between, like an extra year in between the last 2 seasons, like season 9, season 10, whatever. Would that have been like a 12-year gap there for George to get it done? Would that if the show had been more faithful to the books, would that have given him, more inspiration to finish the books? It's possible. You think Old Town is gone? Interesting. I don't think so. Do you think Brandon Wins is going to be good if he is one of the reasons for the delay? I think that's the biggest problem. It is like Bran is such a hard character to write. George has talked about this in depth, that that character is very difficult for him to write because of the age of the character, because of the things that he has to kind of dance around with that character. It's difficult because he's a magical element. It's something that the show struggled with a ton. They tried to introduce certain things like the Hodor stuff, and then they never used it again. But then they also wanted him on the throne, but because they didn't develop that, it didn't go anywhere. And so it's very, very difficult on how to write that character. Yes, George is definitely from the generation that hates fan work. I see. I'm someone that doesn't really like writing fan fictions. I like trying to predict what things will happen in Winds of Winter, but I'm not someone that likes to do fan fictions or adapting. Right? Like that's why when I was doing my rewrites for like the seasons, right, for like season 5 and season 6, whatever, I didn't want to go further than that because I don't like making up a new story for what the show would have been. It's just not something I personally enjoy. But yeah, April, that's something that Ricky from Voice of Old Town really kind of convinced me on as well, on the idea of Euron and Bran having some sort of showdown. With a heavy heart, I've come to the conclusion that a combination of George's nihilism, I don't know how to say that word, old age, and the sheer difficulty of the task mean that the series will never be finished. I hope I'm wrong. Again, there's a lot of people that when I made my video last week about talking about George or about Winds of Winter, I titled it and came at it from a certain angle because it's not really the way I usually talk about Winds of Winter. I try to talk about Winds of Winter in a positive light because I think we will get Winds of Winter at some point. Dream of Spring, I don't think we will. And there were people in the comments that are like, oh, well, you're wrong. And I'm like, I'm sitting here like, I hope I'm wrong. Like, don't get me wrong. I hope that we get Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring. I want to get it more than a lot of people, but I don't know. Anton, I think that's a very great question. I've never understood a Dance Dragons' name. Like, if we're talking about the book, like book 5, I've never understood the name. I've never understood why that's the name. Like, yes, all of the dragon type characters you would assume are in that book. Like if Tyrion's a Targaryen, if young Griff's a Targaryen or a Blackfire, Jon if he's a Targaryen, and then Dany. Like you have all the Targaryen-ish characters in that book, but like it just seems like a very weird name. Like given that we could see like a young Griff and Dany Civil War at some point, we could actually see maybe dragons fighting dragons once again. It's real weird. It's real weird. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like that title is just very interesting. I also feel like A Feast for Crows is also a very interesting name, given that, like, when we see, like, again, A Feast for Crows is supposed to say, like, again, the innocents are being killed and a lot of death and stuff like that, but I always thought The Feast for Crows was a weird name because Jon Snow and the, like, Wall plotline wasn't in that book. And when you say crow, what do you think of? You think of the Watch. So I will say, like, I do think, like, book 4 and 5, I think, have some of the weirdest names given what's going on in the actual book. Ashley, you know, I hope everything is going well with the health and stuff. But yes, medical appointments are not great. I have a thing for my back, which will be, I'm assuming we're going to be deciding if I'm getting surgery to like basically burn a nerve on my back. That is next week, I believe, next Friday. I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah. I will have to reread it, April. Yeah, I recently done a rewatch of Game of Thrones. Even some of the good seasons, like 3 and 4, have not so good. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's things that they had to create because they wanted to stretch out the seasons, right? Because they made book 3 into 2 seasons, there's just certain things that they had to change to give characters things to do. Like, for instance, when you think about Jon Snow, one of the things that Alt Shift X pointed out in his last video about Jon, one of the plot lines they had to create was him going to Craster's Keep and avenging all of what people that died there, so Jeor and Mormont specifically. And so that was a plot that they designed for the show, which is interesting. But I will say, by the way, guys, if you guys have any characters that you think are in the top 100 best characters of A Song of Ice and Fire, and that means not just the main series, but in the whole show, let me know. I am going to be doing I want to do a series where it's similar to Alt Shift X and like how he talks about the characters, but it's going to be like a ranking that I'm planning on doing every week or two, where it's just going through my top 100 characters for A Song of Ice and Fire and the histories. And that's going to be interesting. I recorded the first one, which I'll just give you guys what it is. Now number 100 was Ygritte. So that was fun to do. Because I haven't really done a video talking about Ygritte much, so I enjoyed doing that. Do you think it's possible Bran's character may be based on Paul Atreides, since they have very similar personalities and abilities? Green Seeing and Warging are very similar to Paul's psychic power. So I'm not the best person to talk on this because I haven't read the books. So I've read like the first half of the first book. So again, Paul at that point doesn't really have powers yet. So I'm going off of just the movies on that knowledge. But yes and no. I think from what I got in like the book and the movie it was more of a religious thing as well with Paul, why he becomes so powerful because of prophecy and things like that. Bran, I don't think will have that aspect of it, but I think he will have other aspects of which Paul does have. So I think it's a really cool similarity, Gentle Savage. A very interesting name. Damn, Grease, you don't know how fanfic there is of Rhaenyra getting pounded. Oh god. Oh god, Zeno. Let's I'm not even gonna let's not even bring that up. I agree, April, right? Like, I think here's the problem that we've run into at this point. Every single thing that you see right now is inspired by something. It came from something else. Nothing is original anymore. And that's not a bad thing, because there's just so much stuff now that you like. For instance, you make anything in the fantasy genre, you're gonna have inspirations from Tolkien, right? It's impossible to be completely original at this point. So, Ghost, that's fair enough. My hope is that Marwyn and his we're watching Euron with that glass candle at the Citadel, knew what was coming to an extent, and were able to plan something. Hopefully. We have had too many sandwich hours for that book to not be almost done at that point, but these books are so weaved together, I don't think he can release the first until the second is almost done. Here's also the other problem, April, and this is something, ow, I just bumped my elbow. Is that those sample chapters are great and all, but I've always talked about this. Whenever I make videos and I'm using information from the sample chapters, I try to keep this relevant, because George could always rewrite those. If one of those chapters is conflicting with something he wants to do later in the story, that chapter could be completely different by the time the real book comes out. So I think that's something we have to keep in mind. Fair enough, Ashley. I think it's a cool idea. What is one theory that you believe that isn't widely talked about? What is one that's not widely talked about? I think, that's a tough one. I would say the most amount of theories that aren't talked about a lot are a lot of the ones in Fire and Blood. So, for instance, the first Dornish War, like, how did that end? If Rhaenys is still alive, or was still alive after her crash? What was in the letter? I think a lot of the stuff I talked about in the last couple of weeks about Fire and Blood, the beginning of it, I think are ones that aren't talked about a lot that I really like. Like, were the Maesters trying to kill Maegor and Aenys, or keep them in a state of where they were weakened and were in coma-like states? I think those are interesting theories. Trying to think of one for the main series that's not talked a ton about. Um, I can't think of one for the main series. So if I think of one for the main series, I'll give you one. But another one that comes to mind for theories that aren't talked about a lot, but I really like, is like that Dunk lied about being knighted and all of that. That would be really cool. I think that's a really cool theory that's not talked about a lot, but is very enjoyable. Um, oh, that is unfortunate, Ashley. But yes, I will hopefully be all right. Danny and John fans are constantly fighting each other. You can probably guess what they're fighting about. God. Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. Danny fans are very passionate, so I feel like they fight with everybody. But most underrated Targaryen is Baelor Breakspear. Baelor Breakspear will be on my top 100 at some point. I don't remember exactly where I ranked him. It was very difficult to rank because I had to make a big list of characters, and then I had to like rearrange them into an order, and it was very difficult for me to do. Where is Baelor Breakspear at? Okay, I gave him a pretty respectable ranking, I feel like. Um, Hope it goes well for you. Thank you, Ghost. Thank you. I will say, none of those from what April and Ashes said are on there, but if fans make many ways for the winds to go, is the going to many be many is the going to be many shocks in the books? So I think the problem that George is probably going to run into is that because we've had so much time to speculate, a lot of his surprises have probably been revealed. Like a lot of stuff isn't going to be a big surprise, and if they are, it's gonna be like, how did we get there? Given that we speculated so long on these books, that how is that what we came to? And I there will be, because there's so many things that George left wide open to interpretation, but I think that is an important part of it. April, I know you love your theory about Visenya. I know. Um, do you think George cares that winds won't come? I think he does care, Kyle. I 100% think he cares. It's just he's in a really bad spot because I think George is realizing that, that is his legacy. Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring is his legacy. And if he doesn't finish that, I would say Maekar is the most underrated Targaryen king. Gives me Stannis vibes, of course. Yeah, Maekar is a very cool character. The problem I had with doing this ranking is, how do I place like characters that I personally think are really good, but they're maybe not the most impactful. They're a character that, there's not as much to talk about with the character because we don't know as much about them. It's a lot of speculation. Like, for instance, Maekar. Maekar is on my top 100, and I have him, like, he's not at the top, but he's like, around the middle, a higher middle part of it, but, Also, Nicholas, I probably need surgery. Yes, I'm pretty young, but unfortunately, it's just like I've gotten what, about 7 different steroid injections. I've had 3 on like my lower left side, and then I had 2 on my lower right. Those slightly worked. Like, they made it much more, like, it made it bearable. Like, it made it to where it's like I could actually sit down and stuff. Like, if you go back a couple months, like, there was just streams, videos, I could not sit down for long. I couldn't, for those videos, I could not sit down for longer videos because it hurt so bad. So it's like, it's manageable now, it's much better now, but it's still at a point where it's like, it's still an annoyance. So I had all of that. I then had 2 like nerve blocks that were basically just tests to see, like, is it going to stop the pain if we burned the nerve? And so it did help quite a lot. The last one I got, so we'll see what the doctor wants to do, if it's, enough to where he thinks we should, burn it or whatnot. And yeah, I'm just trying to be done with it. I'm trying to be done with it, and just, I'm just tired of like going to the doctor every like 2 or 3 weeks. It's just not great. April, that's a really cool theory that not a lot of people talk about. Actually, I want to stream that because I kind of want to talk about that. That'd be a good video. I haven't talked about it before, but that's a really cool idea. But yeah, Maz, again, I definitely think there's a few surprises left, but at this point, like, we've overly analyzed the book at some point, or for so long that, like, we may not know exactly which route George is going to take, but we've almost discovered a lot of the routes that George could go, so not any one of those is going to be a big surprise. Maekar is an underrated king. I agree 100%. But yeah. So let's continue. Other parts we haven't really talked about too much is this time, let's look at the Dany camp, right? We talked about Bran because he is someone that's really going to struggle with George writing it. And so let's talk about the Targaryens. Let's talk about what we got in the East. And, you know, it seems like Zeno read my mind, but do you think Dany is the best Targaryen that ever lived in how she runs things? No, not even close. Not even close. Dany is someone that struggles with ruling quite a lot. That's what Book 5 is basically telling us. And so if we go off of just people that were able to rule, I mean, Jaehaerys was better, Alysanne was better, Aegon was better, Rhaenys, again, Aegon's sister wife, was probably better. I think Visenya had, at this point, I would trust Visenya to rule a kingdom more than I would Dany, even though Visenya would be more hardcore. She at least knows how to do it, whereas Dany doesn't really seem like she knows much about it. Obviously, she's better than Maegor when it comes to ruling at this point. She's better than Aenys. She's better than Viserys. She's not better than Viserys II, though. I will say that. She's not better than Jaehaerys II. She's not better than Aegon V. So again, I think if we're coming at it from a purely, like, ruling standpoint, she is not even close, in my opinion. So, the Dragon Knight. Let me look. I know he's on there. He's definitely on there. I just don't remember how high he is. I have him at 55. So, I think that's a pretty, like, solid rating. Like, put it this way. He's above, like, Cregan Stark, the Blackfish, Daeron the Daring, Arthur Dayne. Like, he's in front of a lot of decent characters, so. She's better than Book Rhaenyra and Aegon. Oh, yeah, 100%. 100% Ghost, yeah. Rhaenyra and Aegon were both very bad rulers. As much as I like Rhaenyra, I think she's a fantastic character in the books when it comes to, like, what motivates her, her character conflicts, the heart of conflict in terms of, like, her children, her, you know, partner. I think she's a very interesting character. I think Aegon II is not as interesting as Rhaenyra, but is still a good character to study. But yeah, Dany is way better than both. By the way, Viserys II will also be on the list at some point. I don't remember what point, but he is on there definitely. I've been wanting to do a character analysis of Viserys II as well. He's a very interesting character. Is King Daemon Blackfyre above everyone? I will say he's pretty high up there. I will say. He's actually this is interesting. He is one higher than Baelor Breakspear. That makes you happy. I won't tell you what position he is, but he's one higher than Baelor. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, in theory, Aenys and Maegor could have been a great pairing. They could have been a really, really good pairing. Based upon Aenys being someone that was trying to please everyone, while Maegor was willing to do more of the action. They were a really good combo if they would have worked together better. And that's something I think Aegon took for granted. I think Aegon, if he had made Aenys and Maegor have a closer relationship, actually built them up as actual brothers when they were growing up, and establishing that relationship, giving them kind of a Daemon and Viserys the first relationship, like that we got in the show, where they were more closely tied together, that could have done wonders for the kingdoms. Do you think Dany parallels Aegon the First? Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. She has the same type of dragon as Aegon. She is this person that's trying to come over and unite Westeros once again against some other threat. And we also get the idea now that Aegon could have been motivated by uniting the kingdoms against the others. Similar thing that what Dany's going to probably be involved in. I think a lot of that Dany parallels to Aegon make a lot of sense. So I don't think we're going to get another perspective in Wins, John. I think we've already been foreshadowed onto who is going to be that next POV while Jon is dead or whatnot. It's going to be Mel. Mel is going to be that character. We've already seen Mel being given a POV, and it seemed very random and dance. Why would George do this? And for me personally, I think there is a massive reason as to why he did that. He needed to set up a POV that was going to be established for the next book so that we have someone there to like overlook the Jon stuff happening at the beginning of the book. But again, yeah, Ghost. That's a big part of it. Like, Dany is a huge issue, I think. Dany just doesn't have a Visenya and a Rhaenys. She could. Think about what Tyrion is going to kind of stand for, right? Like, Tyrion is going to be kind of a Visenya type, where Tyrion thinks about, you know, having to go the cruel route. He's going to be someone that is going to be more of a villain type character, someone that's going to be a bit more hardcore. So you have that balancing, right? There is those characters there where it's like you have a Barristan who's going to be kind of like your more, you know, honorable character, someone that you would be maybe a little bit more comparable to Rhaenys, even though Rhaenys and Barristan are quite different. And then you'd also have like Visenya and Tyrion kind of being somewhat similar in their own ways, and then having Dany be like the Aegon of both. But I agree, Maz, about Mel. Also, I want to point this out because I found it very funny. I have like, so we were talking about my list on where we have like Dan Blackfire. I have 3 characters that are all in that same like time period that are very influential right next to each other. So when I get to that point, again, that's going to be a long time from now because I'm planning on doing these like once every week or two. So it's going to take a long time to get through these. I'm going to be talking about like the first Blackfire Rebellion for like a good month and a half. And when it was time, all 3 called dibs on Rhaenys, queen who never was. Okay, all right. Daemon Blackfire better be at the top. I also let me screenshot that actually because I think it's a cool idea. I will say, I will say, you guys that are Blackfire supporters are not going to like it. you're gonna like some parts of it, but you're not gonna like all of it. I'll just tell you guys. So the 3 I was talking about was Bittersteel first, Daemon Blackfire, and then Baelor, Breakspear. So, you know, there's somebody that's missing from that little group of people. That's all I'll say. Make a list of hottest A Song of Ice and Fire girls. Well, here's the problem with that, Zeno. There's not a lot of women in A Song of Ice and Fire that are of age. So it would really just be like, oh yeah, Ariane's attractive. Nothing else is said. Like, that could be true, April. That'd be cool. If Mel is somehow needed for the others to pass the wall. Of course, Sam. Of course. Sir Palance is the GOAT. Do you think the TV show wants Dany to be like Paul and Dune? Yes. I think that's a great comparison. Outside of like Dany being able to like know things that are happening and then be able to convince people with her voice and stuff like that, but yes. Ghost? No comment. Grease, you gotta awaken the cat slayer in you? No, okay. No. See, I had 2 cats. I have never had a dog, but I have had 2 cats. I loved my cats when I had them. I will say I was dog sitting all of last week, and dogs, I swear, are just, they're great and all, but they can be such a pain in the ass. Like, just be a pain in the ass. Like, this dog, it's like, okay, first, like, 3 or 4 days of watching them, they behave perfectly, and all that, and, you know, but then, all of a sudden, just randomly, one day, so I wasn't staying the night over, because it's just my aunt's house, I walk over there, like, it's literally like a minute walk from my house, and I go over there to let the dog out, and I'm just sitting here, I'm like, the dog has completely dug through, like, the kitchen tile down to, like, the wood, and I'm just sitting here like, why? Okay, why? And it's not like they haven't been let out. Like, I was over there a lot. I was over there at least, like, for 30 minutes, like, every hour and a half. So I was basically over there for a third of the time that I was over here. And then, so that happens. And then they all of a sudden start trying to dig underneath the fence. So I had to go out to the fence, like, pick them up. Thankfully, it's a dog that, like, will let you pick them up or whatever, and be like, and then had to put, like, some logs and stuff in front of the hole or whatever. Just like, that's not even the worst of it, but I mean, that is probably the worst of it. But then there was another day where it was raining an entire day, and this is the one day that the dog doesn't want to come in by, like, command. I had to, like, actually chase the dog around to get it to come in the freaking mud and rain. Dogs are just like, I love dogs. I would love to have a dog. But looking at somebody else's dogs, I do not like looking after other people's dogs. If it was my dog, it'd be different, but I don't know. Cats are just so chill. Like, cats are just very low maintenance. I don't know. But I agree. I think Bran is more like Paul. Lysa Arryn turns your topsoil. Well, Lysa Arryn will be in the list, so maybe you're right. Have I read Dunk and Egg? I have. I have read it twice. Is it not up there anymore? Oh yeah, Dunk and Egg is right there. I've read it I've read it twice, and then I've listened to the audiobook once. My dog is named Pavlo. I like that name. I like it. But I do know. I liked Alt Shift X video on Jon Snow. We've always seen him look for family. It could be fitting if he becomes another ultimate hive mind family. Dear God, I hope not. Cats are alchemy and Schrodinger. Love to see that. Yeah, dogs can be menaces. That's all I'm going to say. Fair enough, April. Grease is going through the ringer? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Ander, welcome back. I mean, okay. I like other people's animals. I just don't like, especially dogs. Cats are different. But I don't like looking after other people's dogs. Like, if I go to somebody else's house, yeah, I love other people's dogs. Like my friend Luke and Logan that have been on this channel at some points, and they're on my second channel a lot. I love some of their dogs. Like, I love their dogs. But, you know, I don't know. Is it more likely we get Dane backstory through Bran's visions or through Darkstar / Edric Dane? I think through Bran. I think visions from Bran are more likely than Darkstar Edric. Is Darkstar Ashara Dane's? I don't think so, but it's possible. It's possible. But, you know, now that Darkstar is being brought up, Ashley's going to start going, oh, you're such a hater, Grease. You're such a hater. You hate Darkstar. You hate him. He's awful. He's all. I can already see Ashley's like right now she's like typing. He hates them. He hates them. See what I tell you. What I tell you. Imagine if both Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring come out at the same time. I think that'd be horrible marketing. Xena, if they came out at the same time, that'd be terrible marketing. Like, that'd be terrible marketing. Because you shouldn't release them at both at the same time. Like, you do one, you build up that hype for the second one, and then you release the second one. You don't release them both at the same time. That's how I would do it. But that's where I'm going to stop the stream. My voice is starting to hurt a little bit. And I've been kind of having like, I don't know, I just get these every month where it's like, especially when I record longer videos, my voice just starts hurting. And so I think that's my cue to drink more water and tea, which I already drink a lot of it anyway, but you know. But I will see you guys all in tomorrow's video or in another live stream. I also will say, check out episode 5 review for the Avatar show on the second channel if you'd like. But yeah.